This week, we got some disappointing news about the PlayStation 5 supply, good news for Nintendo, and more. So what are we waiting for? Let's go ahead together as a people and check it out. And welcome to another sensational Sunday. I'm Mike, and this week we got some exciting news, not so exciting news really, about the PlayStation and about the Nintendo. But before we even hop into that, I want to go ahead and respond to your comments, or one comment from last week's video. And this comment is actually from Santa Claus. Now I'm going to go ahead and spoil this and say, I don't believe this is a real Santa Claus. I just have my reasons, I don't know why, but I just don't think it is. So Santa Claus said, has there been any price drop yet, or do you think that there's one on the way? I'm thinking of maybe finally getting a new console, still rocking my PS2 Slim. First of all, I still have a PS2 Slim as well, which I actually bought at a thrift store for like $15 a couple years ago. It was amazing and it was in excellent condition. But yeah, there are a few games that I still like playing on PS2. As far as the price drop, I don't know why Santa would be concerned with it, because I thought that he made the stuff that he delivered to kids. But maybe with the PlayStation, because it's so hard to get, he has to buy them. You know, Santa Claus is in the struggle too. It's real. But yeah, if you're still rocking a PS2 Slim, that is a pretty old console. And the way that console releases have kind of gone since then is usually you won't see a price drop until like maybe 2 or 3 years into the life cycle, where sales are starting to slow down a little bit, and then they'll drop the price and be like, oh, people will get interested again because now it's cheaper. There are going to be a lot of people that hold out because they don't want to pay like, you know, $400 to $500 for a new system, so they'll go ahead and wait for that price drop. This time though, I don't think that there'll be a price drop as soon, just because the demand is so high right now. And you know, these consoles have been out for like 7 months now, and they're still impossible to find. So I don't expect that price drop to happen as soon with this generation, especially because they're selling so many systems. And I'll have more about that later. So I don't think that there'll be a price drop anytime soon. But yeah, basically I wouldn't expect to see a price drop this generation on the system itself for maybe like 3 or 4 years, depending on how long it takes for demand to catch up. And with that out of the way, before we hop into the big stories today, I want to piggyback off of last week's story, because I mentioned there was a rumor about the new PlayStation controllers. So Sony has gone ahead and announced them, and they're available for pre-order. Now the colors weren't exciting like I was hoping they would be. It's just a black and a red one, but actually they look pretty sick, especially that red one. That red is like a really cool color. It's more of like a maroon than like a traditional like bright red. It looks really good. Like if I was gonna buy one, I would probably get that one, but I already have 2 controllers because I got this bundle. That's the only way I was able to get the system. So being that I have 2 controllers and I don't really need one right now, I'm not gonna get any. And I would like to see some 2-tone controllers with a different color touchpad. That's just me personally, and I know that they'll probably do something like that in the future. But it makes sense for them for right now just to release some single color controllers. But let me know what you think of the new controllers. I think they look pretty good. Now with the first story here, I want to go ahead and talk about Nintendo for a little bit. Let's give PlayStation a break. They tied it, alright? We're going to talk about Nintendo. And basically, we all know that everything electronics-wise was on fire last year. You know, anything that could connect to the internet was pretty much selling out. So Nintendo has basically said that last year they sold 5.8 million Switches that were second Switches. Like people already had a Switch and they got a second one. Like who would do something like that? Like that's insane. Why would you have 2 Switches in the same household? I have 2 Switches in the same household. And if you know my story, I got a day 1 Switch. We still have that one. And then I bought a Switch Lite as a second Switch for myself, so Jeff could have his own Switch. This was when Pokemon came out. That was the game that was like, okay, we both need our own Switches. Because up until that point, I mostly been playing the Switch and he hadn't really been playing it. Then I traded in my Switch Lite and got a regular Switch, so now we just have 2 regular ones. But yeah, I think at a certain point, especially if you have 2 people in the house that are into gaming, they're both going to want their own Switch. And some people might just have one to be portable, like the Switch Lite, and then they have their home console. And the game sharing thing is not too bad if it's a digital game. The secondary Switch, like if you have your primary account on one Switch and then you have a secondary Switch, the secondary Switch just has to connect to the internet briefly to verify that you have rights to play this game if it's not your primary, and that's pretty much it. So that's the way we operate. My account is actually the primary account on his Switch, and we buy all the games on my account, and that way Jeff has access to them since his profile's on my Switch, or technically was my main Switch. And then the second Switch also has my account, but it's not my primary Switch. So I can play, of course, any physical games I want to, and any digital games. I just have to connect to the internet to play them. And it actually works fine portable. What I do is I just turn on the hotspot on my phone, for a few seconds, let it authenticate, and then I turn my hotspot back off. So that's actually worked out pretty well and saved us quite a bit of money. For instance, we only had to buy one copy of Pokemon, like we bought Pokemon Sword, and we were both able to play it. So yeah, this makes sense since this is their handheld and their home console, that people would have more than one, but 6 million is a lot, you know, especially being a second Switch. And Nintendo's basically said they expect that demand to go up, which makes sense because they have some more high-profile games on the way, some more multiplayer stuff. We got Splatoon coming out, so yeah, I can definitely see that demand going up. But that's good on Nintendo. Like, they're competing with hardware that is nowhere near as powerful as the current generation like Xbox and PlayStation, but they're killing it, and that's why I love Nintendo. And also it's like the cheapest option, and they're super cool because it's affordable. I don't know, I love my Switch, I'm just saying. And speaking of Switch, let's switch over to our main story for today, and that is the PS5 supply issues. And it's not going to end anytime soon. So basically, details leaked from an investors meeting, aka the investors leaked the details. So there's a direct quote from Sony CFO Hiroki Totoki. I'm so sorry, Hiroki, if I'm even saying that part right. But basically, it was about Sony's expectations of when the PS5 would be readily available. So I'm just going to go ahead and read the quote really quick, and then we can dig into it. So Sony CFO Hiroki Totoki is being quoted as saying, "I don't think demand is calming down this year, and even if we secure a lot more devices and produce many more units of the PS5 next year, our supply won't be able to catch up with the demand. We have sold more than 100 million units of the PlayStation 4, and considering our market share and reputation, I can't imagine demand dropping easily." So basically, Sony themselves don't think that PS5s will be readily available this year. And the way that things are going, I can see why they think that. Now, I'm a little bit hopeful that things may change, because at least here in the US, things are starting to open back up. A lot of people are getting vaccinated. Hopefully, people will be back to work soon. So hopefully, demand will go down, at least here in the US, because a lot of the demand came from people working from home, and then they needed these electronics like webcams, and webcams were sold out for a while, and then GPUs were sold out because people were at home and they were like, you know what, I don't got anything else to do, I'm just gonna play some games. Oh, new graphics cards, I'm gonna go ahead and buy that. New systems, I'm gonna go ahead and get that because I'm stuck at home. So people just had a lot more time where they were just at home and they needed stuff to do. So maybe now that everything's opening back up, that demand will go down and it'll be easier to get a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, whatever you're trying to get. But yeah, Sony's basically not expecting them to be readily available until sometime next year. I mean, this year is almost halfway over at this point. And I remember last year they're saying that, oh, there should be more available in March as far as the new systems, and there were more available, but it still wasn't like you can walk in the store and find one. It was just like still instantly selling out, and that's where we are now in May. But yeah, if demand does stay high, then 2022 might just be when people can buy a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. But to circle back around to Santa Claus's question at the beginning of the video, again, I don't believe it's the real Santa Claus, but you can believe what you want. You know, that's just me personally, I have my reasons. But basically, with the supply being the way that it is, if the shortage does last into 2022, when the console is like a year and a half old at that point, as long as they're selling out instantly, they're definitely not going to lower the price. It's going to cause more demand, and then they're going to lose more money, which they're already not really making that much profit on the system anyway. Typically, Microsoft and Sony don't really make any profit on the system, so they don't usually do a price drop unless they want to drive demand, and demand being as high as it is, I don't see them doing a price drop. So if we go into 2022, you know, this came out November of last year, so by November this year, it'll already be out for a year. Let's say if it doesn't end until March, or, you know, around that time, March to June, then that'll already be like a year and a half of the system on market. And I don't see them like getting to a point where, you know, they finally have units in stores and people are able to buy them, doing a price drop, because then demand is just going to skyrocket again, and they'll be in a similar situation. So I think that it'll probably be longer this time before we see a price drop. Like I said, I think it might be 3 or 4 years into the system's lifespan, and they'll probably release some kind of slim or light systems, and then that's when we'll see the first price drops. But yeah, that's just my opinion. It really does suck if you're trying to buy a system right now. Like I said, I went through it recently, ended up spending $600 for the bundle to get the all digital PS5, which wasn't like a horrible deal because all the stuff that it came with I would have bought anyway, but that's still a lot of money, especially considering the system itself is $400. So this is kind of where we're at right now. Like, it's really going to be difficult. It might be difficult for a while, so hang in there if you do want a new system. There's still a lot of great games coming out on the PS4 and the Xbox One if you still have those, and a lot of them are cross-generation anyway. So all you're really getting is, you know, a little bit better graphics and lighting, and maybe like a better frame rate on the new systems, but it's not like you're being locked out of a bunch of new games. Like, there's very few games that are just exclusive to the new system. So hang in there, everybody. It will get better. But for today, we're gonna go ahead and bring this video to a conclusion. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more from Mike Texas It Out. And I'll be back on Wednesday with something new and exciting as always. And remember to do at least 2 things at the same time.